I was told I wasn't needed at the Founders' Day dinner. We're keeping it tight. Then I saw photos. Everyone there. Smiling. Even the neighbors. I said nothing. Until Uncle texted, "Still covering the cottage mortgage, right?" I replied, "Absolutely." Then canceled his account. His panic began at 7:43 a.m., 53 missed calls. The text came in on a Tuesday morning, just as I was finishing a render for a client. It was short, cold, final. No need to come to the Founders' Day dinner this year. Keeping it tight. That was it. No greeting. No explanation. Just those 10 words from Uncle Dennis. I stared at it for a long time, like the message might change if I looked hard enough. My name is Marcus Lane. I'm 28 years old. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm a junior architect at a small but busy firm. I also happen to be the guy who's been quietly covering the mortgage on my uncle's lakeside cottage for the past 4 years. So, yeah, keeping it tight stung more than I cared to admit. I didn't reply. Didn't ask who made the cut or why I didn't. I just closed the message and kept working. That night, I skipped dinner and ran 4 miles until the ache in my chest finally gave way to something like numbness. 3 days later, I made the mistake of opening Facebook during lunch. There they were. The whole family, all dressed up and glowing in soft string lights, lined up on the porch of Uncle Dennis's cottage. My cousin Tasha was grinning over a tray of wine glasses. My aunt waved at the camera, wrapped in a fur stole she definitely couldn't afford without my help. Even the family dog had a seat at the table. Everyone was there. Everyone except me. It wasn't a smaller gathering. It wasn't tight. It was lavish. Full. Intentional. I closed the app and went back to work like nothing happened. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I just sat there in my cubicle and stared at the floor until the letters on my blueprint started to blur. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Uncle Dennis. "You're still covering the cottage mortgage this month, yeah?" Just like that. No mention of the dinner. No pretense. Just straight to business. I stared at that message for a solid minute before I typed out my response. Of course. Then I opened my banking app and canceled the automatic payment. I didn't send a follow-up. Didn't offer an explanation. Didn't ask if he saw the photos I saw. I just hit cancel, set my phone down, and poured myself a glass of water. My hand didn't shake. My face didn't twitch. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own life. They thought I'd stay silent. They thought I'd keep paying. They were wrong. The silence lasted exactly 2 days. By Friday night, my phone lit up with the first voicemail, then another, then 3 more, all from Uncle Dennis. At first, his voice was level, just confused. "Hey Marcus, I think something went wrong with the mortgage, can you check?" Then came the edge. "I mean, you've never missed a payment before. Just give me a call, all right?" Then the desperation. "Marcus, I need to know what's going on. The bank left a notice on the door. This isn't like you." I didn't answer any of them. I just sat on my couch, sipping tea like I didn't hear the panic growing in his voice. I let the calls stack up while I opened my laptop and started sorting through everything I'd done for them over the years. There was a lot more than I remembered. I pulled bank statements, screenshots, emails. All of it. The car loan I co-signed for Tasha when she had no credit. The joint credit card I set up to build her score, which she maxed out in 2 months. The utilities I covered when Aunt Lorraine said she was in a little bind. The furniture I financed for Dennis's basement remodel that he told everyone he paid cash for. It was like peeling back the insulation on a wall and finding nothing but rot underneath. So I started cutting. First, the credit card. I called the bank, removed myself from the account, and froze the line. Tasha would get the alert by morning. Next, I called the car loan provider and revoked my authorization. If she missed a payment, the car was on her, not me. Then, the big one. I called the bank that held the mortgage for the cottage. The woman on the phone was polite but hesitant when I told her I wanted to remove myself as the co-payer. "Are you sure?" she asked. "You've made consistent payments for 48 months. "Exactly," I said. "And that ends now." When I hung up, I felt empty, but not in a bad way. More like when you finally clean out a drawer that's been jammed for years. You don't miss the clutter. You just wonder why you let it pile up so long. By Saturday afternoon, the dam broke. 53 missed calls. Mostly from Uncle Dennis, but also from Tasha. From Lorraine. Even from a few cousins I hadn't heard from in years. And then came the cherry on top, a Facebook post from Tasha. Funny how some people love to brag about being generous until they pull the rug out from under you when it matters most. Family should be about love, not power. So disappointed. I stared at it for a long time. No names, but everyone in our circle would know exactly who she meant. The likes rolled in. So did the comments. Some sympathetic. Others passive-aggressive. A few talking about how money changes people. I didn't comment. I didn't text back. Instead, I turned off my phone, opened a fresh document on my laptop, and began a list I titled Entitlement Audit. It had 3 columns. Who, what they took, What they said when I gave it. Line by line, I filled it in. A document of quiet betrayal disguised as family favors. I realized then I hadn't just been funding their lifestyles. I'd been funding their lies. And now, without my money, the truth was going to cost them. In full. By Monday morning, I was back at work, drafting blueprints for a mid-rise in Charlotte. My team cracked jokes. People buzzed about the weekend. Meanwhile, my phone kept vibrating in my desk drawer, calls, texts, even a couple of emails. I ignored them all. At lunch, I went back to my apartment, opened my laptop, and started collecting every scrap of proof I could find. It wasn't revenge. It was inventory. Years of messages from Uncle Dennis. Can you float the utilities just this month? We're trying to keep the cottage for the next generation, you understand, right? You're the only one who's really got it together. Photos from family dinners where I'd quietly paid the check, only to hear someone else take credit later. Receipts for the car loan Tasha handled herself. Screenshots of birthday gifts I sent to nieces and nephews that were passed off as being from Aunt Lorraine. I opened my banking app and exported statements for a year's worth of deposits, transfers, and payments. Color-coded them. Added notes. Red for Dennis. Yellow for Lorraine. Blue for Tasha. Gray for miscellaneous lies. By the end of the night, my desktop looked like a detective's murder board, except the crime wasn't death. It was slow, drawn-out exploitation. Still, I wanted something more concrete. Something they couldn't twist or deny. That's when I thought of Mrs. Fallon. She lived across the lake from the cottage. Retired teacher. Former neighborhood association president. And the kind of woman who kept her iPad close at all times so she could document nuisances in the community. I used to help her with her printer when I visited Dennis's place, and she still sent me Christmas cards. So I called her. Marcus. To what do I owe the pleasure? I saw some pictures online from Founders Day. You were there. Oh, Lord, yes, she said. They put on quite the show this year. Champagne, lights, a violinist. That girl with the tan dress was twirling on the dock like it was The Bachelor. I smiled. You didn't happen to take any photos, did you? Of course. I always do. She emailed me 10 photos within the hour. Every single one timestamped. Every single one proving they'd lied. In one shot, Dennis is holding court in a linen blazer, wine glass in hand, looking like he's in a Napa commercial. Tasha's cutting a cake. There's even a printed banner. Family always wins draped across the porch. Family always wins. That was rich. I picked one of the clearer photos, Dennis and Lorraine arm in arm, grinning beneath the banner, and sent it to my adoptive mother. Just the image. No caption. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I didn't pick up. So I texted her. Did you enjoy your tight gathering? That was it. No reply came that night. But the next morning, it started. Texts. Calls. 2 voicemails from Dennis, first full of excuses, then full of fury. One from Lorraine, crying and asking why I was being so vindictive. I played each one once, then saved them. I wasn't flinching. Not anymore. Later that night, I opened a fresh folder on my desktop. Named it Operation Light Switch. Because when people build their lives on shadows, all it takes is a flick to make everything real. And I was done being quiet. It was Civic Pride Day, and the city was alive with music and flags and too much sun. Red, white, and blue draped over every lamppost. Kids ran around with melting popsicles. The parade ended at Arbor Point Park, where the real event was happening, a garden party Dennis's side of the family had co-hosted for years. This year, they'd gone bigger. Rented a tent with chandeliers. A small jazz trio played in the corner. Folding chairs and white linen tables dotted the grass, each one with printed name cards and fake smiles. And this year, they invited me. The email came from Tasha, sent the week prior. We'd love to have you stop by the Civic Pride Party. It'd be nice to reconnect, clear the air maybe. Just come as you are. No pressure. No pressure was code for, we need you. See, their little financial engine had stopped chugging. The mortgage on the cottage was overdue. The car loan was now missing 2 payments. And Aunt Lorraine's gas bill had somehow ended up on a public disconnection list. I could have declined, but I didn't. Instead, I showed up in a crisp button-down and jeans. No blazer. No apologies. Just me. And under my arm? A slim black laptop bag. I arrived halfway through the party, when the energy was high and the wine glasses were full. A few people noticed me first, some cousins I hadn't seen in months. They waved, half unsure, half relieved. Then Dennis spotted me. Marcus. There he is. He boomed like a man without a care in the world. He hugged me like we were best friends. Like he hadn't spent the last week trying to get me to pay a mortgage he never thanked me for. Glad you made it. Great turnout, huh? Looks good, I said simply. Tasha floated over next, arms outstretched. I'm so glad you came. I nodded, but didn't say anything. Her smile faltered for half a second. We thought maybe you could say a few words during the slideshow later, Dennis added. You've had a big year. Got promoted, right? There it was. The setup. They wanted me as a prop. Show the neighborhood how tight-knit and successful we were. Parade the self-made nephew who still loved his family. Smile for the pictures. Keep the illusion going. But they didn't know I brought my own show. The slideshow started an hour later. People gathered under the big tent. Tasha clicked through photos of old parades, smiling children, past years of family barbecues. People clapped, chuckled, took sips of white wine. And then, on the next slide, something new appeared. A photo. Dennis and Lorraine, laughing under a banner that read, "Family always wins." The image filled the screen. Crisp. Colorful. Undeniable. Gasps rippled through the tent. Tasha froze at the laptop, her hand hovering above the trackpad. This isn't part of. Keep going, I said, stepping forward. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the noise. She looked at me, eyes wide, then clicked. The next slide, a screenshot of Dennis's message. No need to come to the Founders' Day dinner this year. Keeping it tight. People started murmuring. Next slide, a bank statement. My payment to the mortgage company. Line after line of deposits in my name. Then, another screenshot. You're still covering the cottage mortgage this month, yeah? I turned toward the crowd, calm as ever. I wasn't invited to the dinner, I said. But I paid for the cottage it was held in. I wasn't asked to be here today until their bills started piling up. Murmurs turned to silence. More slides. Utility statements. Credit card screenshots with my name as cosigner. A note on one transfer, payment for Tasha's car loan, due again Friday. The audience stared. Some shifted in their seats. Others sat frozen. This isn't revenge, I said, my voice steady. This is a record. Of how family can become a transaction. Of how silence gets mistaken for consent. Dennis stood abruptly, his voice shaky. Marcus, this is not the time. I looked at him. It's the perfect time. You made this public. I'm just making it honest. Then I shut the laptop. Silence. No applause. No laughter. Just the slow, dawning realization that the fantasy they had sold of a generous, loving, united family had just crumbled in front of an entire community. I turned to go, walking through the stunned crowd, the grass soft under my shoes. Nobody stopped me. Not even Dennis. Outside the tent, a breeze picked up. Somewhere down the hill, kids were laughing, oblivious to the implosion above. And me? I kept walking. Lighter than I'd felt in years. The first wave hit the next morning. It started with whispers. A neighbor posted photos from the party to the community Facebook group. A few screenshots from the slideshow leaked. Then came the comments. Wait, didn't they say Marcus was just helping a little? Looks like he funded half their lives. Tasha's been driving a car he paid for? And she went after him online? Uncle Dennis has some nerve. That whole cottage is in Marcus's name, isn't it? By lunchtime, it was everywhere, group chats, DM threads, even a couple of anonymous posts on Reddit's r/family drama that sounded suspiciously familiar. People I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly texting. I had no idea. Respect for how you handled that. Honestly, about time someone said something. But that was just the social part. The real flood came through numbers. First, the mortgage company left Dennis a voicemail, one that was accidentally forwarded to me because I was still listed as an emergency contact. This is your final grace period notice. A payment of $1,425 is overdue. Failure to submit funds by the 15th may result in foreclosure proceedings. Then, the utility companies. Water, shut off. Electric, suspended pending balance. Gas, frozen account due to non-payment. I didn't have to lift a finger. The moment I withdrew my support, everything they'd been balancing with smoke and mirrors started collapsing. And then, the car. I got a call from the auto lender. Hello, Mr. Lane. We're calling to inform you that since your name is still on the loan for the 2019 Toyota Corolla under Natasha Green, and the payments have defaulted twice, the vehicle is being scheduled for repossession. I smiled. Thank you for the update. Proceed as necessary. The woman on the phone hesitated. Would you like to assume the loan yourself? No, I said simply. Not anymore. By Friday, the Corolla was gone. And with every update, every closed account, every dropped service, I felt something settle in my chest. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Just balance. Still, I wanted to reclaim more than just peace of mind. I opened a new file, Financial Reversals. It had 3 parts. Dispute documents. I submitted formal letters to each bank and creditor. Attached screenshots, payment histories, text confirming I had been manipulated into co-signing or covering loans under false pretenses. Identity separation. I requested to be legally removed from all active family accounts. The joint credit card with Tasha? Canceled and flagged. Mortgage? Notified as unauthorized co-payer. Utility bills? Archived with letters of withdrawal. Recovery claims. I consulted a financial advisor. We filed for restitution on the mortgage payments. Because technically, I'd been paying on a property I had no legal interest in. And with proper documentation and the neighbor's photos, my case was strong. The first refund came the following week. $3,800, credited to my account by the bank, classified under disputed third-party mortgage contributions. Then a small credit from the auto lender, $9.50, my unearned contribution to a vehicle that was never mine. Even the gas company gave me back $214 from an overpaid balance I hadn't used. It wasn't everything, but it was a start. And while I watched their house darken, their accounts close, and their lives unravel without my name to hold them together, my own world grew brighter. The money was nice, but the silence? That was priceless. Each refund wasn't just a transaction, it was a receipt, proof that I had been more than generous, more than patient, more than enough. And now, for the first time, they had to live in the wreckage they created, without me to hold up the roof. It had been about 3 weeks since that rainy doorstep visit. The calls had stopped. The texts faded. Even the social media jabs from Tasha and her passive-aggressive subtweets had dried up. The quiet was jarring at first, like I was waiting for a shoe to drop that never came. But after a while, it felt like oxygen. I started sleeping better, drinking my coffee while it was still hot. Even stayed late at the office once, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. One Thursday evening, I stopped at the grocery store after work. Just something simple, pasta, sauce, a decent bottle of red. I was walking down the canned goods aisle, lost in thought, when I saw him. Uncle Dennis. He didn't see me at first. He was hunched over, holding a can of soup in each hand. He looked old. Not in the gray hair sense, he'd had those for years, but in the slumped, faded way someone does after too many hard weeks catch up to them. He was thinner. His shoes were worn, and he stood there like the decision between chicken noodle and beef stew was too much to process. I didn't duck, didn't turn, just kept walking, slowly, until he glanced up. Our eyes locked. His face changed instantly. Not surprise, not shame, just exhaustion. He opened his mouth to speak, then seemed to rethink it. After a beat, he gave me a small, tentative nod. I nodded back. He took a slow step forward. Marcus, he said quietly. I wasn't sure I'd ever see you again. I live here, I said. Not unkindly. Just a fact. He smiled faintly, the edges of his mouth twitching like he wasn't sure he still remembered how. I guess that's true. Neither of us said anything for a few seconds. The fluorescent lights buzzed above us. A cart squeaked in the next aisle. I've been thinking a lot, he finally said. About everything. About what I said. What we did. I waited. He swallowed. I thought I was doing the right thing, you know? Keeping the family together, protecting the image. But it wasn't family. Not really. It was just control, I finished. He nodded. Yeah. He looked down at the can in his hand. It was generic. The kind with a label that peeled too easy. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly, meeting my eyes again. I know I don't deserve a second chance. I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Not for the money. For the years. For how I treated you like a bank account instead of a person. I didn't say anything right away. Part of me wanted to ask why now. Why not 3 years ago? Why did it take losing everything for him to see me? But the bigger part of me didn't care anymore. Not in a bitter way. Just in a clean, detached way. Like the wound had finally closed. I appreciate that, I said. And I meant it. He nodded again. I'm working part-time now. Hardware store over on Hillside. Pays enough. Keeps me busy. That's good, I said. You always were handy. He chuckled. Yeah. Guess it's time I start fixing my own stuff, huh? I gave him one last nod. Take care of yourself. You too, Marcus. He didn't try to hug me. Didn't beg. Just turned down the aisle and walked away, pushing his half-empty cart with a quiet, tired kind of dignity. When I got home that night, I poured my wine, lit a candle, and sat by the window watching the city lights flicker across the buildings. For the first time in my life, I felt at peace. No more being the fixer. No more being the forgotten provider. No more being just the nephew. I was Marcus, and that was enough. As the rain started tapping against the glass, I took a long sip and thought back to the banner I'd seen hanging at that family dinner months ago. Family always wins. They were wrong. Respect wins. Truth wins. And this time, so did I.